it's better to go deep than it is to go wide. And I see this in my life when it comes to business, where, you know what, I got all these opportunities, but here's the one that's working the most right now. How can I go deeper there?
Hey there. Thanks for listening to the Amazing Marketing Show. We talk about marketing because marketing is in everything in our lives. And another thing that marketing is in is kind of in therapy. We like to think of this as marketers therapy. So this is the Amazing Marketing Show. I'm Dmitri Smirnov here with my co-host Chris Gray. Chris, what's going on?
Dmitri, what up?
Living the dream and excited for today's therapy as usual. How are you?
Life is good, Dimitri. I just had lunch with a mutual friend of ours, Andrew Pincock, and his wife, Christy. Shout out to Andrew and Christy. Sometimes, man, like it was like us, like when me and you hang out and then we brought our wives together, you just never know how it's going to go. And it went well, right? It was good, well enough for us to be able to come out to your house in Virginia and all that, right? But there's times where you might like somebody and then you meet their spouse and it's like, yeah. And you have those relationships where you get along with the two husbands get along, the wives don't get along or whatever. And so it was good that that was not the scenario with the Pitcocks. They are both dope as hell. It was a great lunch.
Well, that's good to hear. And Andrew, yeah, he's such a cool guy. It's great talking to him. And it's so funny how you find so many things in common in your history or languages that you know for whatever reason. So with Andrew, that's really cool to hear that. And I'm glad that the wives get along because you're right. Sometimes, you know what? It's like, I don't even want them to meet because I know where this is going to go. And then you and I are never going to get to hang out. It's like, so that's good.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on? What's going on the business front for you?
We'll get on. I'm sure we'll get into it when we get into the man of the in the arena. But outside of that, like we were talking about prior to the recording, for me, there's this concept, and again, another jujitsu principle that I see that resonates in our lives and even with marketing as well, where it's better to go deep than it is to go wide. So let's say for jiu-jitsu, for example, there's very simple things like an arm bar. People have heard of an arm bar. It's a very simple move. When you learn jiu-jitsu, you learn an arm bar, you learn these simple submissions. And then you get into it and you start looking at all the fancy stuff like, oh man, there's this and there's that and there's this little flip and all this fancy stuff you start to learn, right? But when I start watching guys at the highest level, what do? They just do an arm bar. They
Hmm.
can arm bar you from every fucking position possible, right? They're super deep with a couple things. Um, and I see this in my life when it comes to business, where, you know what, I got all these opportunities, but here's the one that's working the most right now. How can I go deeper there?
Well, it's so tempting to learn or try all the other options. And it really is that. It's a temptation because you think that you always think that the grass is greener on the other side. And if I learn this skill or implement this tool or do something else, then everything will get better from that. But chances are, actually, probably more likely than not, it's not going to get better. It's only going to take away from what
Yeah.
you're already doing well. I think people do this all the time with their finances. We have a client in our agency that we work with that runs some kind of financial program, and they just it's one thing that they do, and it's all that they push. I was thinking about what do most people they know about diversification, and they try all. Well, I got to get into crypto, and I got to get into stocks, and maybe I should have some bonds. I mean, people have bonds, and I got it. Well, real estate. Look at all these people making real estate, and I got to get into the commercial real estate because residential is not good enough. And and I got to be holding cash. But if I'm going to be holding cash, what currency should it be in? Because maybe dollars not, maybe it's going up, maybe it's going down. Maybe I should be in the yen or whatever. It's like,
Mm.
and so your spread's so thin that none of it works. So I can
Yes.
relate to exactly what you're saying, and I think my uh, submission into from the arena is going to kind of be about that too. So, and it's about meetings, and I think a lot of times we spread ourselves a lot in meetings. Uh, and we can do a lot better by focusing on specific things. I want to share that from the arena, and then maybe go a little bit deeper into it. But first, let's get into your man from the arena. And for everybody who doesn't know yet, "Man from the Arena" comes from the famous quote "Man in the Arena," where the idea is it's not about who wins or loses; it's about who actually plays the game and isn't just standing in the sidelines and criticizing. And Chris and I really love this quote, and we agree that it's a good way to live life. So let's share our men in the arena from this past week or whenever. So Chris, over to you.
So a few weeks back, when I went to Arizona, um, it was a Friday. It was a Friday morning in Arizona. I was working, and you and I talked about this. We talked about traffic and conversions and how I was looking on traffic and conversions. For y'all don't know, for y'all who don't know, it's a big marketing conference, one of the biggest marketing conferences in the states. And um, Dmitri spoke there, and to speak there is quite an accomplishment. It's something you can put on your resume if we really even have resumes. But um, it's something. It's like it's a landmark. It's a check mark, right, in what we do. So, man, you probably see where this is going, but I was almost 99% confident I was going to get on stage because I did my research. I talked to the people who I thought were picking people to be on the stage. I knew the type of content they needed. I have I'm proficient at that content. They said they needed help with. They said the agencies needed help with hiring, and Dimitri, I stole Cosm's hiring system, made it mine. Told Cosm I was going to take his hiring system and teach it at TNC with my spin, and I was going to help him benefit from it. Just knew I was getting on stage. Well, as you can tell, um, it didn't. I got this email saying that I didn't get picked, and I was shocked. And it wasn't like I did. I think there's some times where you can be cocky about something and be like overconfident or something, but no, I know this is good. It's not even my stuff. That's why I know it's good because I took it and I've hired. And you've been on a hiring spree. I'm
Mhm.
sure you've taken
Yep.
stuff.
I've used
It's
that stuff. Yep, it's
it's
good.
good.
It's good stuff.
It's good. I got some good employees from it. This is real good shit. And so my submission was on point. I'm using copywriting skills. I'm a copywriter, man. I'm gonna kill this shit. They were like,
Mm,
no, you're not hired. And it was kicking the balls, or not hired, but no, you're not getting the
yeah,
opportunity to speak. You know what I mean?
dang.
So it was kicking the balls, right? I'm like, dang. And then about 20 minutes after that, I get another email from a client who basically says, hey, we're not doing Facebook ads with you guys anymore. And that's our biggest Facebook ads client, right? And I'm like,
Mm,
shit. So within the matter of, 30 minutes, I get, kicked in the nuts twice. And I had a hard time shaking it, Dimitri. And keep in mind, I'm at Cosm's house,
mhm,
right? Cosm at this point in his career is like done with traffic and conversions.
mhm,
Like he's done the small stage, he's done the keynote stuff. One of the best keynote speeches ever there. He's at this point where he's like beyond it.
mhm,
And so I'm over here like I didn't even get on the first stage. I'm at this house with this guy who was beyond it. So I feel dumb even talking to him about it, right? Because for various reasons, like you know what I mean? Like I felt it was a tough day. And so one, I had to just go outside and it really hurt my bro. It really hurt. Let me
mhm,
to be candid. I don't tear up. I teared up. I
yeah,
was talking to my wife. I was talking to my wife, and I didn't see it coming. I just teared up, and that hasn't happened in a long time. So it hit me deeper than I thought. Right. Uh, and so I had to address that and deal with what was happening in here and all the breathing stuff and going through the emotions of it, um, and then I was like, man, Collins is over here. And the reason why I'm embarrassed to talk to him about it is because of my ego. It makes me feel like I'm inadequate. Here's a guy who's beyond it. Here's me who's just kind of started with it. I look stupid and foolish. So what I do, I went and eventually just told him. I wasn't going to tell him, but I
mhm,
told him because I need to get that off, get that out. I don't know what was happening, but I knew I needed to get it out. And so I guess the man in the arena moment is that was it. And what I learned from it, I still don't know, but it goes back to this. The whole part of this segment is if you're in the arena, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get knocked down, right? It's gonna happen. You're in the arena. And a couple weeks ago, it was the jab and hook that knocked my ass down for a few hours, but it is what it is, brother.
And that's hard to hear because I thought you were for sure getting that too. It made so much sense. First of all, like you're saying, the material is good, but also you have it prepared and you have your own spin to it, and you can speak to it. You have the experience of it. It's exactly what people need. You're talking to the people who are making the decision. They seem into it. So it's like, what in the world? What in the world? How could it possibly not be a yes?
Yeah.
So I could see how that could be extremely difficult, and it almost sounds like, not getting into the college university that you wanted to go to, even though you knew you were going to make it, and your GPA and your extracurriculars were all on point, it was above the average, and then you get the rejection letter. And it's like a bigger hurt than when you are not sure if you're going to get it or not.
Bro, yeah, and it's like, and I called you when I was doing the application because I have the data. They're like, this is how much money we saved and made as a result of this system. And to your point, like I know that if other people do this, like it's good stuff. You know what I mean? So all that, it's like everything combined and everything you just said. It was like I was just like, what the hell, man?
Well, I'm curious a little bit more about the details of in the rejection email. Did they say anything as to why they made that decision?
No, and I even followed up. Like I had a preemptive move right before I even submitted. I was like, look, if I don't get submitted, are you open to giving me feedback so I can better
Mhm.
prepare for next year? And they're like, yeah, da da da. So I don't get it. I wait a little bit, send them an email like, hey, I didn't get it. Okay, all good. Help me get some feedback so I can try this again next year. Crickets. All
Mhm.
right, cool. Wait a couple weeks. Hey, just following up on this email. Crickets. I'm like, okay, all good. No details. It is what it is. A positive side, though, not to get too far off. Shout out to you because this same organization, Clarion, who does TNC, they do affiliate world or affiliate summit West and East.
Mhm.
They're looking for referrals. You referred me for the home service stuff. 2 days ago, they reached out to me about wanting to meet because they're looking for speakers or something like that.
Nice.
So I need to
Good.
respond back to that. But hey, that might be something. And thank you for doing that for me and Ruben.
Well, you guys are the best in the business when it comes to home service marketing. So it's it's as simple as just saying the reality. Yep. Okay, this is who you're looking for. Here are the people: Chris Gray and Ruben Rock, who we had on last week, and that was, as you guys saw and heard, that was he's brilliant, and Chris Gray, as you know, every week is brilliant. But truly, I, I don't. Well, I asked Chris. I'm like, Chris, hey, actually, can I talk to you about like what you do, because I want to learn more about it. And Chris and I are gonna hop on and talk about more of how he does what he does in home services as an agency and everything internal that makes it work for him, because it truly is successful and works. And I mean, it's good. Like there's not much more to say. It's a good business, and Chris is really good at it. But following up on this, I do want to touch on a little bit more. I'm very curious, if you don't mind sharing, what did Costum say?
He was so cool about it. Like, Cosm again, I don't know why I didn't think about it from the get go. If Cosm, Cosm. I'm saying for the audience, if you've ever encountered Cosm, he's what you see is what you get. Just a big hearted, cool guy, and he felt for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
was very clear with even to the point where I told him how I didn't want to tell him. Right, very
Mm-hmm.
open. And he was like, "Bro," and he reacted the way with somebody with a big heart would react. Then he made me feel a little better because he just told me some things that made me feel a little better. That these decisions that are made are not always um, in the hands of the proper decision makers, right? And it wasn't just nothing that had to do with me, just stuff that whatever. And so I'm grateful for his heart and his feedback.
Yeah, um, and he's so right about that. And I want, between this podcast and other things that are happening, at a certain point, it's going to come a time, just like what Qasim has now, is he could speak at any event anywhere in the world at any time, and he could headline and keynote it. And ultimately, probably all these conferences are making business decisions and whatever reasons they have, but there comes a point where if you're recognized enough, then in the industry, then you don't submit anything. You just say, I'm going to speak, and then like, yeah,
Yep.
please, or they're coming to you, please speak. So it's a big difference, and we talked about frame before too. I mean, it's a huge difference in frame when they're asking you to speak versus if you're applying, going through application process. What I want to say, and by the way, like if by saying if I don't get it, let me know. I want you to let me know that is the frame drops in that case. Like, but
Mm, that's a
yeah,
good point.
yeah,
But
it's like almost accepting because like somebody who like in Costume's position, they would never say that.
1000%. You're
Okay,
so
well,
you're so good with that frame shit, by the way. Before, I mean, so you gave me some feedback on a guy that Cosm level dude that I was talking to you about that I'm getting to know, and you brought up something I wanted to tell him, and you brought up the frame stuff, and I was like, man, that's brilliant. So thank you for yet another reminder in the power of frames.
yeah, and actually, frame is one of those simple things that, and one of those foundational things that I found that works well for me. And I don't always get it right, and I don't always set my frame correctly, but it's one of those things of maybe the 4 or 5 things that I think about in relationships instead of getting caught up in the weeds and the other psychology. I mean, this is part of it. That's one thing that I do try to remember in every communication. And like it doesn't happen all the time, but oftentimes where I'll send a message without giving it the proper time. Have you ever heard of like the 5 minute rule? You write something out and then you
Yeah,
give it five
yeah.
minutes, and you let the emotion settle. And by the way, I have a tangent on that that I think would be relevant. So I'll tell that in a second. But the framing part, even in well, one simple example would be the celebrity fan relationship. And one of the reasons I think I've been successful or been able to work with like real celebrities like Jordan Belfort and Brooke Castillo and some other people is because you and this is not my saying, but you can't treat them as if you're a fan of theirs.
Yep.
And that's all
Yes.
frame. That's all frame. And same thing with dating, same thing with everything. Um, Now I forgot the tangent, but anyway, maybe I'll come back to it later. So, yeah, frame is important. Anything else on that from the arena?
No, I'm interested in hearing your arena experience.
Mine is not quite as emotional this week, although, as you know me, there will be emotional ones, and I think I've shared before. But this one is more practical. It was about meetings, and nowadays, especially after COVID, but for me, it's been my entire life that I've been working from home, my entire career, minus one summer that I worked at a bank and decided I can never do that. That's a whole separate story. It was like almost on day one that I decided, because they're like, okay, here's the whole week's worth of work. They already had it ready for me. Like, okay, here's a week's worth of work. I finish it within the first few hours. And then they're like, okay, well, we don't have any more work for you right now. And I don't, I'm just like in this office, people are on their computers, they're kind of going to each other's cubicles. Like, I cannot do this. And so I started taking three-hour lunches, and I'd come back, nobody cared. Like, I might as well just sit at home and do this. So anyway, there you go for a tangent. Yeah, so this is about meetings and meetings with clients specifically. And I was thinking about my process of preparation. How would I prepare my team? I think the temptation is that you schedule a meeting with a client and then you show up to it, even if you make a deck. Let's say you prepare a deck with slides, which I think a lot of people wouldn't do. But even if you go that far, To me, that's not good enough preparation. It's every I tell this internally. I'm sure other teams say this too, but every client interaction is a sales pitch. Every
Hmm.
single one. Every single time you talk to your client is a sales pitch. So, because you're selling to keep working with you. If you perform badly on the meeting, um, maybe they're like, well, maybe we should try someone else. But if you crush every time you talk to them, why would they look somewhere else, even if they're getting pitched? And by the way, there are so many cold email agencies out there and different conferences, and your client is getting pitched by other agencies all the time, all the time. So why are they going to continue working with you? Um, so let me walk you through this particular example. Is that we talked about at the beginning of the week with the team that we're going to have this meeting, what we need prepared for it, what slides, what should be in the slides, the data, and throughout the week they were submitting updates, and they were working on optimizing the slides. But then it's like, okay, now let's present those slides internally, and we go through it where we go through it with interruptions, meaning you don't just let the presenter say the whole thing because there's just too much to fix. And it's like, so every time there's something to fix, you fix it right there on the spot, and then you run through the presentation again, and then it's a lot better, and then you notice new things every time you run through it, like, oh man, I can't believe we didn't have that, and I can't believe we put that, and that's wrong, and eventually after like 4 or 5 times you finally have a good presentation. Whoever's doing the presentation has now rehearsed it and is ready to go for the actual thing. And then when the meeting happens, it goes smoothly, it goes well, and we're prepared, and we have the objections because we're working through it throughout the week. So for a 30-minute meeting, we spent as a team probably, I mean, near 20 hours as collective
Dang.
time, probably 20 hours for a 30-minute meeting to prepare for it. That's how important I think those are.
We're, you, I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not sure if we are moving into the meeting topic just yet.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, might as well.
Might as well. Here we are. This is interesting to me because uh, our approach is nowhere near detailed. So this is a good subject because as you are putting 20 hours into a 30-minute meeting, we probably don't put 30 minutes into a 2 hour meeting. Um, we have a standard like template of the way that the calls go, and and then we kind of branch off depending on what's happening. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times where there's things that there is intent, right? Depending on something going on, we'll prepare for it, blah blah blah. But it's not a standard as it is for big life marketing. We have a template. We go into it. May look at the account 10 minutes before the call, maybe 5 minutes before the call, and then jump on and start doing our thing. Now, um, I think there will be a happy medium as our agency grows. Right, we're only 52 clients right now, and we just got a client relations manager, and we're still figuring a bunch of things out. But we will there will be better preparation for meetings. I think our relations manager right now is kind of green in the marketing, but excellent with people skills. And in the industry that I'm in, it's really the people skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because um, we work with we have certain clients that are big. You'll have these 1 to 2 owners who own 6, 7 different brands, right? We got like 3 clients like that. For them, you get on with their team. It's more sophisticated. You gotta be a little more prepared. You gotta be on your toes. But for the rest of our clients, like guys who got 3 trucks, 6 trucks, they're in the home services. They don't give a shit about marketing. That's why they hired us, right? We just gotta they just kind of want to hear what we have to say, and then get some consultation. We're supposed to be the experts. We're basically like their CMO, and then it's out. And so I think I saw that to say this: if we were working with more traditional businesses that have people who are a little more tech savvy, our meetings couldn't go the way they go right now. But I think for the nature of my business, we're able to get away with it. But as we scale, and it's not me and my business partner on those meetings, we won't be able to get away with that, right? We want to be able to do that. And so I find this interesting because I think our approaches business wise are opposite when it comes to meetings.
I find it interesting too because I don't really know how other agencies do it, and this is a format that we've developed over years, basically years of trial and error, and seeing why clients with seemingly amazing results leave.
Mm.
And really the way it's set up nowadays is for us internally is there's four categories of work effectively that we most care about, and it's creative and copy is one of them. The actual ads like Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, etc., running that in the platform is two. Three is landing page, making sure people convert on the landing page. And four, and probably most important, is client relations. And it's not any smaller than any of the other points, because what we found is with our type of clients is no matter how good the performance is, if you're not explaining that properly, then they won't know it. Especially if you're only dealing with the client won't know it, especially if you're only dealing with only one traffic source. For example, let's say you're one of the vendors of the clients, that so they have a Google ads agency, they have a Facebook ads agency, they have SEO agency, they have a organic agency, you name it, they have it all. They don't know you from anything. They're just looking at total company numbers, and whether, as long as it's going up like that, they're happy. But then they're looking at, they don't know who's doing well. So you have to tell them, you have to show them, and it's not like you're making up data. It's you're using real data. And I found that to be extremely important to explain with detailed, prepared meetings for the type of clients that we work with. But again, I mean, it is a different type of client, and we're not working with local businesses. We're looking with working with nationwide big companies doing 10 plus $1 million in revenue per year. Sometimes less, but that'd be like a software company, which is valued more than any other companies because they're software. So it's still important there. But and the owners they're in masterminds, they're sophisticated marketers, so you can't really get away with anything.
If I'm the listener and I'm listening to both, listening to you and me talk, if I'm the listener, I it would behoove me to mimic Dimitri's approach to the meetings. Let me tell you why. We're able to get away with this stuff because we're just. This is going to sound real cocky, but I don't mean it to be cocky. Me and my business partner in our industry with the home service guys, it's a blue collar, right? And so it's not as like, you can show up in I could wear this, right? And if I want, I could wear a hat if I wanted to, right? It's blue collar.
Mm.
If I came in on there with a suit or something, it actually would do me harm, right? And it's, kind of good old boy, but I'm not saying Southern good old boy. I'm just saying it's kind of a good old boy. Just dude, you got to be kind of a real person. Any corporate stuff they don't really like. You got to be a real person, man. And likability is huge. And so what I'm trying to say, not trying to be cocky, is me and my business partner both, I think, not everybody likes us, obviously, but we are likable guys. Um, and we know our stuff and we're good at what we do. So the fact that we're likable, we know our stuff, and we have results, we can kind of get away with just like, hey, but this template and talking and that is free flowing. It fits our industry. That's not going to work for a lot of other industries. And then let me tell you, in my industry, how it's hurt us. Back to the beginning of this, the man in the arena, how I lost that, how we lost the Facebook client. We lost the Facebook client because we didn't do what Dimitri's doing, which is we didn't show them the value. We were crushing it with their Facebook ads and this is for their branding ads. We were basically going viral in these small little towns, right? And I think I've told you what I do with those, but we were going viral. They were getting tons of engagement. The impressions were costing half a penny. The client didn't know any of this shit.
Mm.
They just knew they were paying for something and it was going out. But we were not. I'll talk about pay per click. We talk about SEO on the calls. We never talked about the Facebook ads. We never talked about how they're what their CPMs were. We didn't explain CPMs. We didn't explain CPCs. We didn't explain the Facebook point engagement system. We didn't explain how we're crushing it with shares and comments, was getting the most points. They didn't explain all that stuff, right? And then we lose them because they're just like, well, they're just making these decisions over there without complete information. To the point where this morning, Dimitri, I had to record. I had to we revisited the Facebook ads of the client that we lost. They're branding right now, and they're getting fake traffic with the current way they're branding. We like Facebook because Facebook will send fake link clicks, like bots will crawl your site because it's ads, and they're trying to make sure you're not trying to do affiliate bad stuff. But what you cannot fake on Facebook is shares and comments. Those are real people. We're bullish on social media because a share and a comment is typically a real person. Half the battle in marketing is getting real traffic, depending on
So
the
true.
platform you're on, right? And so we didn't explain this shit. And so when they're in the room making decisions, they make a decision to stop the real traffic from Facebook and go buy a bunch of fake traffic, and that's on me. So let me go ahead and land this ship. Is if I'm listening right now, I I lean towards your approach before mine.
I've heard that story so many times. Is one of the reasons we've developed the strategy that we do now, because you are, as the agency who knows what they're doing, you're running good traffic at an amazing cost. You're improving overall business performance. This is the thing that drives me the most crazy. A company will hire you, right? And business is booming, sales are going up every month, everything is going well, and still they have the audacity to review, like, oh well, what's this line item, let's just cut it,
Yeah,
it's not helping. It's like,
yeah,
excuse me, you didn't change anything else in your business except for hiring us, and ever since you hired us, things have been going gangbusters, and now you think and they think that they just started doing something, that, oh well, we started doing sales calls really well. Like, no, you didn't. Nothing changed except for you hired us and we started running traffic. But most companies do, like, what someone else thinks about your traffic is completely different than what you think about the traffic. So
yes,
that explanation point is quite important. And again, man, we talk about marketing as in everything. Think about every single relationship you've ever had. It's the same exact thing. You think something and the other person thinks something else, and a break in communication, and it ruins everything. A miscommunication. How many times have we had miscommunications with people?
yeah. So again, for all those reasons, this the lost client, that at the end of the day, where I'm over there sulking and feeling sorry for myself and all this stuff, it's, well, like many of our problems in life, it was brought on by me, and or at least many of my problems in life were brought on by me at the end of the day. And so it's I created it, and it's a learning lesson, and I think that I take for granted um, my likability. I think it's like it. I think it's the equivalent. It's like this, another a basketball analogy where you had Kobe and Shaq,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of Kobe's biggest beef with Shaq was, Shaq is still one of the greatest centers of all time, hands down, right? And Shaq didn't work very hard,
Mm-hmm.
according to Kobe and according to Shaq.
Yeah.
Shaq was just naturally gifted, and it worked for him. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a brilliant businessman or whatever, but he didn't work as hard as he could in basketball. Where you have Kobe. Kobe's Michael Jordan level hard work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's I'm over here. My whole point is I'm over here leaning on our natural talent, and when there's, I'm not saying I work hard, but when it comes to these meetings, I rely on talent and a little bit of data more than I do. Okay, I'm going to make sure you get this data. I'm going to make sure you see this, that, and the other.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because even the Shaq and Kobe situation. So yes, Shaq is one of, you said, still one of the greatest centers. And imagine that sentence. You would never say that about Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Like, they're in the conversation for greatest of all time. Period.
Mm,
Shaq is not. And imagine, had he worked like Kobe Bryant did, He may very well be the
Yes.
greatest basketball player of all time, hands down. He was so talented, and so talented and big, and dominating physically in such a way that other people aren't, that he got to get to the highest level, get to the, like, almost the peak of the highest level of the sport, but probably not on the Mount Rushmore of the sport. And I mean, I can't relate to that. I was not never in the NBA or anything close to that. But as a kid, I was very talented in academics, in sports. I was always fast and good. And up until the age of like 13, 14, when it was the talent got you there. But then if you didn't work, you're done. You're sitting on the bench. And that's what I quickly learned. I'm like, all of a sudden, I found myself sitting on benches as I turned 15, 16, 17. I was all-star MVP up until that point, and I still
Hmm.
have that talent, and I still have I could throw a baseball super fast. I could throw a football 60 yards, like whatever. I have the raw talent, but I didn't learn the work ethic until it was too late. And in the case of the agency, I mean, the same thing, really. Fortunately, it's not one of those things where time runs out. There's always more opportunities. And side note, for those who don't run agencies, and like, if you've ever been fired, it hurts, right? You're fired from your job. That's a painful feeling. As an agency, you're getting fired all the time, basically, depending on how many clients you have, and you're constantly having to deal with the hurt. And it's and so figuring out a way to get fired less often, especially when you're doing a really good job for them, is almost a self. You're like protecting yourself from that pain.
Yeah, we have some opportunity to do that. And I think also with our agency, like most things, it's relationships, right? But especially in our world, with us being 90, 95% referral based, it's all relationships. And you form some close bonds with some of your clients who you've helped grow from, 4 or 5 trucks to 4 or 5 businesses,
Mm,
right? So there's a lot. That's a relationship. That's years of talking to somebody and going through the ups and downs and this and that. So when that person fires you, that's like a divorce. Like that's what it feels like. We lost an agency that was with us for 13 years, and it's like you come home and your spouse took all the stuff and they're gone.
mm,
That's what it's like. And so and part of that, my whole point here is that, like, how we can take our spouses for granted. Like, hey, you're just supposed to be here. You're just supposed to
mm.
do this and just supposed to do that. And blah blah blah. Um, I can take my clients for granted. Like, hey, we're cool. We're helping you make money. You're supposed to be happy until I come home and all the shit's gone.
Yeah, because they didn't see what you were seeing, they didn't think what you were thinking, and that miscommunication, and that's why we put so much effort into it. And it's not like it's taking away from other things. In our agency, we allocate a ton of resources to every single client. In many cases, we have numerous account managers, creative people, copywriters dedicated specifically to one client. Most agencies are built to where it's, one person deals with 10 clients or even more, 20 clients, or more. In some cases, I've heard of 40 clients where one person is doing everything. And
Yep.
we do it so differently, where it's five people are dedicated to one client only, for example. And then maybe another five, where half the time is dedicated still one. Like, it's so much all in. And it's not about taking time. Well, if you're spending so much time on meetings and preparing for them, then you're not doing as good of a job optimizing and making good creatives and copy and all that, and running strategy, making landing pages. No, that's not the case. It's and you know what, the meetings actually even help you with strategy, because you end up forcing yourself to go through it, and the whole team goes through it, and you find things that were otherwise hidden, or not yet
Hmm.
discovered.
I agree. You have me thinking. I like that counterintuitive approach where you'll have instead of having one client with 54 or one employee working 50 something clients. You have five working one, especially when um, I would assume that's going to be a big fish client, right? That's not going to be some, whatever it is. If you have five clients working one, well, that's likely a big account. And there's some, I mean, it's the 80-20 rule, right? Unfortunately, there's a few clients of ours make up a big part of our revenue. And so it would make sense to have somebody who just does PPC for this big client, or somebody else who handles the other 20 or 30 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Somebody else might handle 10 or so. And so when you said that, it sparked something in my mind. I'm making note.
Well, I was listening to Alex Hermosi at some point, and he was telling the world or whoever his listeners are that about his preparation for that big online event that he ran a few months ago or a year ago, whenever, where he had 500,000 people show up, and he really is good at explaining things, and he also looks at it from a psychological perspective, from a math perspective. And then I was comparing it to how I prepared for my TNC talk, and I'm like, dang, I should have done it completely different. The TNC talk, I was practicing my speech literally up until the very moment of the speech. Like, I was backstage, they're about to introduce me, I'm still trying to go over it in my head. But that morning I woke up early, that night before I stayed up late, and it was very reminiscent of how I was in school. It's like last minute preparation, trying to cram it, stuff it. And did the presentation go well? Yeah, it went pretty well. And afterwards, there was a long line of people wanting to talk to me. I got some clients from it. Throughout the rest of the event, strangers were coming up to me and saying, "Hey, man, like, like, that was so great. I felt like a celebrity for 2 or 3 days." But it fizzled out. And could it have been better? So it could have been so much better had I invested 5 times as much time. And what Alex Hermosi did, he he writes his presentation, goes over it dozens of times, then records himself, watches it back, corrects it. I didn't do that a single time. How much better it could have been. It could have been like an all-time presentation. Maybe they would have invited me back. It's not like they've invited me back since. So clearly something wasn't prepared to the fullest. And I think preparation, whether it's for meetings, for presentations, or for whatever it is, I mean, for even an event, if you're going to a big event, as a as an attendee, you're not presenting, but are you preparing yourself to, what is your goal for that event? Like, how are you going to present yourself? What are you going to be wearing? Or are you the morning of, stuffing stuff in a suitcase and just like, and then you show up and you're just confused,
Mm-hmm.
and you get overwhelmed potentially. So like, preparation, I'm telling this. I'm telling this to you in part because I'm still telling it to me. I think preparation is so underrated, and there needs to be way more of it done in all aspects of life.
So you're saying, yes, I agree with all that. And you're saying Hermosi he recorded himself doing the presentation and then basically watched film prior to him doing the actual presentation.
Yes, exactly. So he'd record himself, like an athlete would watch the film of it
Yeah.
and see what was confusing, what could be better on camera, how can he improve it, and keep getting better and better at it. And then he's memorizing it because he's done it so many times, so it goes smoothly. So what we see, we're like, oh man, he's so good at. He's just naturally good. No, he spent hundreds of hours preparing in a in not in a random way. Like, there's a plan to it. There's a certain structure to the preparation. And then he went through the math. He's like, okay, if I how long would I prepare if I had 1,000 people watching? Like, if I were to go to an event and I'm going to speak to 1,000 people, I'm going to prepare a lot, right? I would prepare for 50 hours, right? And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to have 500,000 people. That's 500 times more. So if I'm going to do 50 hours on 1,000 people, well, naturally, I should do 2,500 hours to prepare for this. Like, if we think about it, we are under preparing all the time, is
Right.
his argument. I agree with it.
That's a really good point, and that's next level stuff there, man. I thank you for sharing that. When I speak, and I'm not a Hormozy level by any means, evidently, but when I speak, I prepare hard. But that's next level where you record yourself and tweak it and watch your own film. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's good. And depending on, I guess it's what's important and what's going to take off. And I've been thinking about this even in another way. Again, I'm going to say marketing is in everything. And the reason I talk about, you know, like even going to a birthday party, someone's birthday party, you're going on vacation with your family, these big events that happen in life, the things that are actually memorable in your life, because you don't remember, you're never going to remember the day to day stuff. You're going to remember the big trips, you're going to remember the big events. I just had this big housewarming, which you talked about on the last episode or whatever. We talked about it. And like, there was a lot of preparation that went into that, but there are many events I don't prepare for properly. Why not? I should spend a week preparing for that Saturday night event because of how important it is and how much leverage there is in that event, how many people you're interacting with, how many opportunities could come from that one event, and we're under preparing. I'm under preparing for it.
Now, with that said, I think the thing that immediately landed with me when you said opportunities that come from that event, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Scott Duncan, and we were talking about something. He has some high level um, wealth guy that he's trying to help build his brand or whatever. And we're talking about this guy, and he said one of the lessons he learned from this guy was this guy says when he gets a referral call or he gets a call for an opportunity, it's not because of what he did that day, right? It's this is months, years back, and not even just months or years back. It was interaction with the person who helped him get that opportunity. There's stuff that you did that helps you show up well with that person that then helps you get this opportunity. The opportunity that comes today is not because of what you did today, and that all goes back to um, the preparedness. Right, we're doing it even when we don't even know we're supposed to be doing it. If that makes any sense.
I think I'm so glad that we do this podcast, Fed, because this always comes to like real actionable stuff for me. Even in this
Me
case, we're
too.
talking about meetings, but and then leading up to preparedness, and I've thought about it before, but now I think about it even more. And um, yeah, like I'm thinking about just everyday life stuff, everyday life questions, everyday life experiences. Next week, I think I'm going to have some people over. Something I'm doing is I want to have kind of like a boys' night, but not in a traditional way where it's cigars, poker, and alcohol. It's going to be um, kind of guys from age 20 to 50, something like that, a wide range, coming over for some. We're going to do bird watching, grilling, fire pit, and then camping out in the yard. And the intention is for us to have like actual deep conversations and sharing and something more meaningful than the talking trash and drinking beer of a normal night. And I'm thinking like I need to prepare for that,
Mm.
for it to be what I want it to be. Because without preparation, sure, it could be okay. It'll be okay, but is it going to be amazing without preparation? Probably not.
I echo what you say about these podcasts. Even just as you're talking now, my house is the house that people come to for events, right, in our family. And so we have a Christmas party, our Christmas Eve party every year. Can't stand it because, well, it's not that I can't stand it. I don't like it because I wake up Christmas and my house is just looking like I had a party, right? Which I don't like. But needless to say, it happens. It's important. And I was telling my wife just, I think 2 nights ago, like, what's missing from the parties lately, what's making it whack, essentially what I was telling her is that we don't prepare. Like we prepare with the food, and don't get me wrong, there's hours of like cleaning and there's the preparation that
Mhm.
goes in that's like the normal, like the food and the cleaning and that stuff, the stuff that you don't really think about, stuff that has to be done. Let me hang these lights, let me blah blah blah. But what's missing is the preparation. Okay, well, what kind of game can everybody play together that gets everybody talking, interacting, as opposed to having people in different rooms having different
Mhm.
conversations, then leaving early. Um, So again, as you say this, and again, like you talked about earlier, how marketing weaves through everything, and we talked about meetings. Now here we are talking about preparing for boys' night and Christmas parties. It's
Yeah.
all, yeah,
Like for the Christmas party, it's the same as marketing. I mean, we're marketing everything. We're marketing, in that case, we're marketing ourselves, relationships. Christmas, we're marketing for the children to have a good time. Yeah, a lot of people laugh at seating arrangements where somebody sits at a dinner party, but it makes such a big difference if
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
properly organized. So if you prepare for hours, days, getting the food ready and then ultimately preparing it, setting the tableware and the and all the decor, you've spent so much time preparing, and then you don't take the 15 minutes to prepare the seating of that dinner party, and the whole thing is ruined because the people who were actually going to be talking or that align in terms of conversation, they're sitting across table and they can't even yell over to each other, and then there's some people who are feeling awkward being like all that preparation, and you didn't do the final step of the preparation,
right,
and it got ruined.
yeah. I got nothing to add to that, but 1000% agree. And as I'm talking to you, my mind's turning. And again, I guess back to the subject at hand, um, is the meeting stuff. I think this was good for me to hear because as I'm processing through you, I think I've come to the realization that yeah, it's been working, that's worked, right? But to get to where we're gonna, what's that whole book? There's some book about how what you did in the past won't get you to where you need to go in the future, right? Like you
Mm,
can't just keep doing the same stuff and expect to keep leveling up. And as our company grows, I think our style of likability and here's a few some of the data and like okay, you're growing. See you next week or next month or something. That's not going to cut it.
yeah. One more other thing I wanted to share before we close was that I kind of have this itch to teach, and I don't know why, because it's not going to make any money. But there's this local university or college, it's a college, and I kind of want to teach marketing there, maybe once a week. One of those courses that's a 3 hour once a week thing. I don't know if I'm going to do it because I do have so many other things going on in life, so many things that I want to do. But at some point, I probably will teach just to because it's one of those things. I don't know. It's this for the same reason I've gotten into bird watching, and I have this desire to do some woodworking, and like, I think it's just a like a men's thing. As you age, you start to want to do these things. Um, but there's a big difference in marketing between a person who graduated college with a marketing degree. They know about Facebook ads. Okay, like this, it is 2024, and they are teaching that stuff. But are they animals, traffic animals like affiliate marketers are? No, they're not. And the affiliate marketer strategy, I'm not saying like affiliate marketers today, it's kind of not as prevalent as it used to be when we were coming up. But that, I was thinking about it, is like the affiliate marketer prepares like crazy. They investigate their competitors, all of their ads, all of their landing pages. They copy them in many cases, and then they're like they have a whole plan. If this happens, if this is the conversion rate, then I'll do that, and I'll test this. And it's this long preparation rather than the reactive. I got a bachelor's degree in marketing. I know how to click the buttons, but it's not a prepared marketing.
I think that's a really good point. Like you have somebody who just got a marketing degree and they would get eaten alive in the world of affiliate marketing, especially back then when it was,
Mm.
more underground. And even today, I think that it's more widely known affiliate marketing. Um, and I'm as a side note, I'm getting a little more bullish on affiliate marketing because so many people have moved away from it. But point being, let me go back to your point where you have somebody who just got a marketing degree that get eaten alive in the affiliate world. Then you have somebody who wants to be an affiliate. Let's say back in the day when you and I started, you may do okay or whatever. Then there's a super affiliate that
Mm.
you were talking about, the person who's doing big things, and it's exactly what you just said, where it's tons of preparation before all this, before they hit submit with that ad. Bunch of stuff happened, and then after they hit submit, there's a bunch of other stuff happening in order to make the money that you could make doing something like that. So excellent point.
This keeps new ideas keep popping up about preparation to me because I love reading copywriting books in general, but but especially the ones from 1960, 1970. I even have one on my table here. I think was a scientific advertising or one of those,
Yeah, yeah.
but I just love them because he talks about it's going to take you to write a 5 to 10 word headline. Expect to spend 100 hours on it because it's like you don't even know the first thing about this audience, this market, the age of the market, the competitors, like what other what kind of marketing has been used, what stage of awareness is the market in at this point, what's going to actually land. And like those big time copywriters, they didn't just sit down, oh, I got 15 minutes, let me quickly write the headline to my ad. No, 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 no. And the Fortune 500 companies, they're not hiring people like that. They're hiring a copywriter and a marketing agency that's going to know their customer and their market better than anyone in the world. Otherwise, what's the point?
It's funny that you said that about a good headline because, man, I know we're getting into or coming up against the time here, but the hours that go into writing a good headline just to get like here are the 5 I'm going to test or here are the 10 I'm going to whatever it is, right? There's hours that go into that, and not even just preparing. Like, I'm not even talking about writing all your different. I'm talking about even learning how to write a headline. There's hours that go into all that. Then you get the headlines, and then there's more hours that go into optimization. Okay, well, does this headline work with this picture? Does it work with this ad? Da, 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 da. It's it's all work. I'm rambling, but you get what I'm saying.
No, I totally get what you're saying. All right. Well, Chris, anything else you want to add to this episode before we wrap up?
You guys are watching us live. Figure out what we're doing with the podcast. If you're listening and you're still listening, thanks. Again. I was telling Dmitri prior to this. I was telling a guy this morning. This jiu-jitsu dude. I was telling him, hey man, like he's a. I was telling you, I was giving him a compliment because he's in the middle of the suck of jiu-jitsu where it's all hard and you're just getting your butt kicked. And I was talking about how there's always a necessary period of suck when you're trying to get through anything, right, and grow. And I was complimenting him, and I think that Dimitri and I are on this period where like we're not. This doesn't suck for us. We're having fun, but it's not like we're making a bunch of money. Not like we just have it down, know exactly what we're doing. We could just go teach a course on podcasting. We're figuring this thing out. And if you're watching today, you're watching me and Dimitri look at you. Um, and this is part. This is preparedness prior to this thing. This is feedback that Dimitri gave me. Now here you're watching us do it. Um, and so I guess I say all that to say this is we talk about all these things that weave in through life with marketing, this, that, and you see it here on the podcast, right? We are figuring this out, learning and implementing. So I hope as you stay with us and listen to us, you start to see that, hey, man, this is us figuring things out, just like we had to figure it out in our business, just like we do in our marriage. Again, all these things play together.
Yes, sir. It's all about figuring it out. That's what we're here to
Yeah.
do. All right, everyone. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Amazing Marketing Show. Talk to you later.
Peace.